Okay, guys, welcome back. So today, what happened in the stock market? We'll go through the charts, look at the technical analysis. Today, was definitely a victory for the bulls. You could say today was bullish in general. I saw it as being bullish, and it definitely it's starting to put into question the bear thesis that we have on some of these sectors. It's the bear thesis is not completely dead. I think there's still there's a plausible case to be made, but today, does dig away at it a little bit, chip away at it slightly, and today was bullish. So let's look at what we see, and try to determine where things are going. Now, of course, one day doesn't make a trend, so you can't just say that the today is just completely destroys the possibility that we could stop moving higher and reverse, and this is a bear market rally. And in general, I don't think it makes sense to change your general thesis based on one day, but let's look at what we see. All right, so we've got this price channel marked out. This is this channel we've been in the triple Qs for for a while, going back to April 21st basically. And we've had several tags. It's a really tight channel. We've got resistance and support. And basically today what we did in Qs is we came down, tag support, and bounced off of that. And we came right back up to, if I zoom out, you can see here's the gap entry. And we came right to that gap basically on the daily chart. If I move my daily trend line, you can see the gap actually falls right here. Right there. That's where the gap closed on this daily candle. And today, if I zoom in, you can see we closed right there. So we came down to tag support, rebounded, and bounced right up to resistance. And that's kind of where we're at. So we're at resistance now. Now we could easily break to the upside and tag the top of this trend line. There's a lot of possibilities because clearly we're in this uptrend, and we have to continue to watch this. We did have the possibility for a breakdown today, but it didn't hold, and we held this support and moved up to resistance. So we're still contending with this gap right here. We've been battling with it. They've popped it a couple times. You can see each day here they've tried to pop the gap here. They popped the gap here, popped it, pretty big right there. And then today we closed right at it. So tomorrow maybe they pop it again. We don't know, but this is just a battleground area that we're dealing with. So we continue to, sell off and then rebound, and it's continues to be pretty choppy. But there's lots of day trading opportunities that take place when you have a choppy market like this. So that's really all I see in Qs. Volume, not bad. Relatively good volume, at least an increase in volume. We didn't have a breakout though, so to see a high volume here or a higher volume, I wouldn't call this high volume, but higher volume than the previous, previous days, isn't as much as a tell to me because there's no breakout. If we have a breakout of a level, say we break above this gap, maybe we do it tomorrow, I don't know, and then volume comes in, that's a lot more informative to me than just having a higher volume day, but not breaking out any significant levels. So all we've done is just continued to trade within this gap right here, and also within this price channel, this upward price channel. So no breakouts today, just trading within those parameters. Moving on to SPY. Okay, so SPY, what's going on? Looking at this one. So, all right, let's start out with the weekly. This green line right here is your 200-day moving average, simple moving average. We're just slightly above it on the weekly. So a close above that on the weekly, if we close Friday basically above this trend line, then you have to read that as near-term bullish. That's a weekly close above the 200-day moving average, and that's how I'm going to read that. So if we get that close, we'll have to continue to watch what the following week is. Do we have follow through? But ultimately, that would be bullish. So we just something to look for on Friday. It's not there yet. We could easily have selling tomorrow or Friday, and close back down below the 200-day moving average. But as of right now, we're above it, so we'll wait and see where that week closes. And then also we've got this resistance line right here at 302.30, and that basically just comes back to, you know, these highs right here, these reactions. If I go to the daily, you'll see here's 302.30, comes back to these reactions here, and then we're closed pretty much on it. I mean, you know, a couple pennies above it, sure, but ultimately, you know, a $300 stock, it was pretty much on it and above the 200-day. So let's see what happens. They did come down and test the 200-day here, and then again undercut it today, but it recovered it. So, you know, near term, that's bullish. I mean, you have to just read it for what it is. You can see today we came down, tagged the 200-day, kind of undercut it, and then recovered it and closed the day bullish. If I go to the 1 minute, you can see that, you know, we closed the resistance just barely. The last 10 minutes of the day, you know, we were trading at resistance right here. And then in the last 10 minutes of the day, they popped it just slightly above. So again, don't read too much into the last 10 minutes of the day, what takes place. That, you know, for all argument's sake, we can say that closed pretty much at resistance. So just something to look at. If tomorrow we move higher, well, then, you know, you can see that we're going to, you know, this resistance should be support. So that's something to look at. And, you know, again, I just have to call it for what it is. Today was bullish, so I can't say anything outside of that. Let's look at the volume real quick on the daily chart. Yeah, so you can see here today, you know, still low volume, relatively low volume. But again, we didn't break out of any major levels. So that's the low volume. Markets can move higher on low volume. They can continue to move higher on low volume. What we're looking for is what happens when you get major breakout levels. You know, if you break above a resistance that it's been battling with for a while, is there volume on that breakout? That's what I'm looking for to tell me whether a breakout can be trusted or you know, shouldn't be trusted. And today, no major breakouts of, you know, levels. So we're going to just continue to monitor that. And volume doesn't really matter if you don't have major breakouts. Although, you know, low volume creeping into resistance can be a tell, but ultimately, you know, this doesn't mean anything to me today, this low volume. Okay, so moving on. Let's look at some of the other sectors. XLV, dead money. You know, I'm short this sector, but again, it's just been dead money for about 6 weeks. Nothing going on here, so it is what it is. So we're going to continue to let this either, you know, let this stop out or you know, let this work in our favor. As of right now, it's just kind of sideways chop. XLF, this is the sector that's been getting all the rotation, so I'll spend a little time here. So, all right, so here's what I see on the daily chart of XLF. We've got this gap right here, and we'll have to go down to the hourly chart to refine it, but there's your gap right there. All right, so today we pretty much closed right at resistance of that gap, and we, so, you know, if it enters the gap, probably going to fill the gap, just something to watch for. And then if we look at the hourly here, narrow it down a little bit. Yeah, you can see gap right there. So we definitely have a gap that, you know, possibly is going to fill. Came down, tagged that support right here. We created that support from those last two highs and then moved higher. Although we still closed, it looks like we still closed below the opening of today. So they weren't able to recover where the XLF opened at. So, you know, I'm not sure what that means. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but volume, you know, a lot larger volume today. And so that's interesting. Let's watch this. You know, the gap here is going to be the tell. If we enter the gap with volume, well, that'll be bullish. If we just kind of, you know, if we don't enter the gap, you know, well, what does that say? So let's go ahead and continue to watch this. I just don't see anything, you know, I'm not short or long XLF. I don't have a trade on this. and I don't really have a good read on it. I mean, you could take a short with this gap. Again, all trade ideas are just my opinion. But again, the rest of the market being kind of how it's been behaving and relatively resilient, I think I'd rather just wait and see what happens on that one. All right, Walmart. This trade continues to work in our favor. So, I got a couple, going back to my trades, like, the Qs is something, hasn't broken above the highs that it recently was at. So we'll wait and see if that wants to do that. But Qs, is still down from those highs. So, it's still a decent, there's still probability that this market can roll over. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't mean that it will or has to, but I think it's likely that it will. Oh, and that's the other thing. When you look at the daily here, actually on the hourly, we've got divergence that I marked out on the hourly. There's divergence on the MACD or PPO basically. You have it right here and in the RSI. So divergence, if you don't know, it just means that you're making lower highs in these indicators. So you can see you have a peak here, and then the next time it ran up to make a peak, it made a lower high, or it can be an equal high, but essentially lower. And then you can see that we made a lower high again right there, and same on the PPO, lower high, and then a lower high. So, and then when you see that, and when you're making higher prices, especially on thin volume, that's what you call a divergent high. Prices are diverging from the momentum indicators. And that just tells you that there's a possibility of a reversal. And so what you look for, the probability that there should be a reversal sometime soon. And then what you look for is sell signals, some signal that tells you that that reversal is starting. And usually that comes in the form of a breakdown in the trend line. So that's kind of what you're looking for, I think. You've got this trend line right here on Qs, it's just up ascending trend line. And I just marked it out today, but we, just started to get our data. And, so a breakdown of that could be a sell signal. Moving on. Or if you're, for me, I'm still short because I believe that, I'm seeing other signs. I've got divergence in my favor. I've got low volume in my favor. The only thing I don't have in my favor currently is price moving against me. So, but again, when you have divergence, it tells you that there's probably going to be a breakdown. So again, just something to look out for. XOLF, we covered that. Walmart working in our favor so far. Here, this was your bearish engulfing candle and on the daily, and that continues to play out to the downside. So Walmart, down another 1%. So this trade is working out nicely. And, we're going to let this one continue to move down. It's chopping a little bit sideways, but ultimately I think it's going to go sideways to down. So we're going to watch this, see if this continues to play out. We've got levels here, 117.85 and 121.45 seems to be kind of the short-term support, right around 121.50. That's where it held today. So I'm looking to take a little bit of profit down at this 118 level, and then I'll carry probably the rest of the trade down to the bottom of the wedge, which is down here, another 10% or so. Apple. All right, so Apple, look, nothing technically has changed in Apple. It's still a bearish setup. It still has bearish posture. You've got divergence here on the hourly chart. You can see the divergence, see the lower highs on the PPO, and you have it on the RSI right there. You've got prices moving higher, and then you also and you have a breakdown of the trend. Here's your trend that it was in place. We broke, we back tested right there. Kind of did another back test. We're curling up a little bit today, but ultimately this is just counter trend action because the trend is no longer up. All right, the trend, this was the uptrend right here. This broke. Now we're kind of back testing or consolidating. This is a inflection area where we should reverse trend ultimately. So if that happens, Qs is going to sell off as well. So that's Apple. Microsoft. they did a little rope-a-dope today, kind of interesting. So today they broke the trend. Here's your trend line of Microsoft on the hourly chart. Broke the trend, but then throughout the day rallied back up to recover that. So false breakdown right there. That's bullish. And so again, we'll have to wait and see what this wants to do, but short term, that's bullish. That should, Microsoft will probably continue to chop around within this flag a little bit longer. So, we're going to watch that one. Tesla, nothing, just sideways. This thing's just been dead money as well. I've got a small short position on this one. Not a lot, but I'm waiting for a nice solid daily breakdown of this 807.70. If I go to the daily, you can see we've just been, that's been holding as support, held as support again today. And then resistance is right up here on the daily. You can mark it out. So we break to the upside on the daily, that's bullish. And if we break to the downside, that's bearish. That's really, Tesla's kind of in an area where it needs to make a decision. NVIDIA, been looking at this one. This one had a little gap down today. So we actually did create an island top reversal, essentially. Although not that impulsive of a gap or a reversal, to be honest. Here's your island top. So if I mark this out right there, there's your island top. And then it's separated by two gaps. So you've got let me go ahead and delete this. Okay, so it's separated by a gap here and then a little gap here. So that is a reversal pattern. Now we look for continuation. We did get, it did, substantially rally back today. If I go to the hourly, you can see. So here's your gap entry, and we closed just above that gap right there, 339.80. I took a small short position on this one today as well. I took it when we rallied back up to this 339.90. So that's where I took the position, slightly down, at the end of the day. But ultimately, I'm looking for this to continue to roll over. Profit targets on this guy, we could say we definitely have a level right there. So we'll probably look at that one. And we'll say that's our first profit target down there at 303. All right, so we'll just continue to watch this. And that's all I'm going to lay out for right now on that one. Zoom covered this trade today. This one worked out perfectly. I was short this one. I got short right up here at the high at resistance and closed it down. I closed part of it the other day, and then I rode the rest of it down to the bottom of the wedge for an 11% gain. And, that's a nice trade. It only took a couple days, 4 days basically from the top of the wedge to the bottom. So small little trade ultimately, but an 11% gain on that one. And that one worked out. So I'm no longer in this one. This one, what I'd look for though is, because it is making this bearish rising wedge pattern, I think we're going to get some sort of a breakdown out of this pattern. So if we get that, then I'll look to get short this thing again. But until then, I'm done with this one. Shop. This one I was kind of eyeballing. There was several trend lines I kind of had marked out. I had it marked like this, something like that. But ultimately, now that we have the third reaction, we've got the trend line right there. So shop just uptrending. I'm looking for a breakdown of this one too. However, not quite there. Oh, and actually you can see if I move and connect the trend line right there, we had kind of a false breakdown. See the tail. So that's bullish in general. Still uptrending. Nothing to trade here. Nothing to look at. But I'm looking for a breakdown on it. XOK, which is very similar to Q's. It just doesn't have Amazon. But again, look, here's what I want to point out. You have an uptrend. This is the uptrend that we were in. We broke that uptrend right here. And then we did a lot of kickback rallies. We kicked back tested, and then started to kind of run up and do another back test. So ultimately, we can do a full-on another back test, which might even break us to a marginal kind of all-time high. That's completely possible. That trend line is still intact. and it's been validated. You can see we validated it as support, and then we validated it from beneath as resistance. So it's completely possible that we can do a full back test. However, with this gap right here that is in XLK and also the Qs, basically, you know, you've got the gap. We pretty much filled the gap, but we didn't quite get there. You can see this candle. We ran up and almost got there and fell short. So that's bearish. When you fall short of a well-watched gap, that means sellers stepped in early. So ultimately, this is what we got. We're within the gap right now. A break above the gap probably sets us up for all-time highs and that full-on back test on a daily close. A break below the gap down here at 96 and a daily close below sets us up for kind of the end of this bear market rally, if that's what it is. I mean, I still think it's a bear market rally. I still see things that tell me it is, but at the same time, it may not be. So that's really all you got to watch for there. So 96 to the downside, daily close below would be bearish, and a close on the daily above, say 99, a daily close above that would be bullish. And not just marginally above it. I mean, I would look for a nice solid close above it. If they just barely pop it above it, that could just be a stop raid. So you want to watch for that as well. TVIX. All right, so I continue to trade this. Took a small profit on this one today as well with these pops. So here's what we get. We keep getting this in TVIX. It's just grinding along the support line and giving us these intraday pops, these quick little pops. And so what I've been doing is, you know, buying or building the position down at support, and as we get the pops, I sell into that while keeping a little bit of it in case there's more than just a little pop and it becomes a runner trade. I want to make sure I have some participation in that, but at the same time, I've been selling into these pops because that's what it continues to do. So we're going to continue to watch this, see where this wants to go. Or just right at support again. So that's that trade. That's kind of an idea right there. Okay, guys, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's any stocks you want me to look at. And we'll wrap it up here. So thanks for subscribing. Hit that like button and catch you guys on the next one.